Okay, so you've given us like 50 everyday English phrases laid out in this pasted text.
Right.
And we're going to take a deep dive into them today.
Yeah.
And this is going to be your shortcut to really understanding how to use them, like common expressions that people say every day.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go beyond the definitions and really look at the nuances and the context, even some related ways of saying things.
Right.
So that you can feel confident, navigating those daily chats.
Yeah, and not just the dictionary definition of it, but like the actual usage of these phrases.
Exactly.
And when it's appropriate to use them.
Right. So let's jump right in.
Okay.
So we're starting with greetings and farewells, those crucial first and last words of our interactions.
Right.
And we'll begin with, how's it going?
Okay.
It seems simple enough, right?
Yeah.
Like a casual, how are you?
Yeah, it is the everyday equivalent of how are you? You'd use this with people you know, like friends,
Right.
colleagues, maybe friendly colleagues. But the unwritten rule is you're expecting a generally positive or neutral answer.
Right.
It's more of a light opener than an invitation to a detailed life update.
Yeah, it's like a little social lubricant,
Yeah.
just to get the conversation going.
Exactly.
Now, our source mentions get along as being related to how's it going?
Yeah.
How does that fit into the picture?
So think of get along as a slightly more focused version.
Okay.
So if you were to ask someone, how are you getting along with that new software?
Right.
It's similar to, how's it going with that new software?
Okay.
But it nudges the focus towards progress or
Okay.
management of something specific.
That makes sense. So it's less about their general well-being
Yeah.
and more about like a particular situation.
Right.
Okay, so imagine you bump into a neighbor, and say, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
They might just say, not bad, just heading to the store.
Exactly. Just a quick general response.
Right.
And now picture you ask a teammate, how's it going with the presentation slides?
Huh.
And a reply like, pretty well, just finishing up the last few, shows how's it going, can inquire about specific progress.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Moving on to what's up. This one feels even more casual, something you'd say to a close friend.
Absolutely. It's definitely on the informal end of the spectrum,
Right.
often used among younger people or those you're very comfortable with.
Okay.
It's similar to how's it going or even what's new.
Right.
But the expectation for the answer is usually even briefer, focusing on what's happening right now.
Like that text message from a friend, what's up?
Yeah.
And the answer is just chilling at home.
Exactly. Short to the point.
Yeah.
Or if you pass a friend in the hallway and say, hey, what's up?
Right.
Their reply might be, nothing much heading to class.
Right.
It's a quick check-in on their current state.
Okay.
The related way of saying this is keep up.
Keep up.
Yeah.
So if you ask a close friend, what have you been keeping up to?
Yeah.
Would that be like asking what's new in their life
Yeah.
recently?
It's very close. Keep up tends to focus on recent activities or news.
Okay.
It's like asking for a brief highlight reel of what they've been doing.
Okay, let's move to saying goodbye. We've got the classic, see you later.
Yeah, this is your standard informal farewell. What's interesting about this is it carries an implicit promise of a future meeting.
Okay.
You wouldn't typically say this to someone you don't expect to cross paths with again.
Right.
So it subtly reinforces an ongoing connection.
Right. It's not a final goodbye. Like, think about leaving a friend's place.
Yeah.
You might say, all right, see you later. And they'd reply, yeah, catch you later.
Exactly.
Okay,
And that's
that's all.
brilliant. And that catch you later is, as the source points out, an even more laid-back version of see you later.
Right.
And now imagine you're leaving work and say to a colleague you see every day, see you later tomorrow.
Right.
It clearly signals an expected future encounter.
Got it. Now, take care. This one feels a bit weightier, doesn't it?
It does. Well, still a polite way to say goodbye. Take care adds a layer of wishing someone well. What's useful about this one is its versatility.
Okay.
You can use it in both informal and more formal situations,
Okay.
especially when you don't have a specific next meeting planned.
Okay.
It suggests a genuine concern for the other person's well-being.
That makes sense. It's more than just a fleeting farewell. Think about ending a phone call with a family member,
Right.
saying take care, and hearing you too in response really emphasizes that well-wishing.
Precisely. And imagine your shop assistant saying goodbye to a customer after they've made a purchase.
Okay.
Thank you for your business. Take care. It adds a touch of warmth and goodwill at the end of the interaction.
Got it.
The similar phrase here is look after yourself.
Look after yourself. That really puts the focus on their well-being.
Yeah.
So you can see how these initial phrases, as our source guides us, really set the tone for our interactions.
Right.
It's amazing how these little choices in words can impact how we connect.
Absolutely. Choosing between something as simple as what's up and how's it going subtly signals the kind of interaction you're expecting
Right.
and the level of familiarity.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Let's dive into those social lubricants. Common courtesies.
Okay.
First up, never mind.
Never mind is a fantastic phrase for smoothing over minor issues.
Right.
It essentially tells someone, don't worry about what was just said or asked.
Right.
It's not important.
Okay.
You'd use it to gracefully dismiss a statement or a request,
Okay.
often to avoid making a fuss.
Right. Like if you ask someone a question and they look confused,
Yeah.
you might say, oh, never mind, I'll just look it up myself.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off them.
Exactly. Or if someone bumps into you lightly and apologizes,
Right.
a quick, never mind, no problem at all, helps to diffuse the situation.
Right. The informal way to say this is forget about it.
Yeah, forget about it. Definitely feels more casual, and depending on your tone,
Right.
could even sound a little dismissive, while the core meaning is similar. The tone can make forget about it sound more emphatic.
Yeah.
Like you really want them to drop it, which might not always be the most polite option.
Okay. Good point to keep in mind. Next, we have the ever reliable no problem.
Right.
This is the go-to response to thank you in many situations.
It is. It's a polite way of saying that whatever you did for the person was easy for you
Right.
and didn't cause any inconvenience.
Right.
The source correctly points out that it fits well in informal and semi-formal settings.
Okay.
It conveys a sense of ease
Right.
and willingness to help.
Yeah. The examples really hit the nail on the head. Someone says, thank you so much for your help with moving.
Yeah.
A natural and helpful reply is no problem at all.
Exactly. Or if a waiter brings you an extra napkin and you say thanks,
Right.
their no problem is a standard polite acknowledgement.
The more formal alternative, as noted, is you're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome is the more traditional and formal way to acknowledge thanks.
Okay, now let's tackle, excuse me.
Yeah.
This is a real multitasker of a phrase, isn't it?
It is incredibly versatile.
Yeah.
As the source mentions, it has several key uses.
Right.
Politely getting someone's attention,
Right.
asking to pass by in a crowded space,
Okay.
or offering a mild apology for a slight interruption.
Right.
And as you said, your tone makes all the difference.
Absolutely crucial. Think about trying to get through a crowded room. A polite, excuse me, could I just squeeze by, is essential.
Yes, and the gentler your tone, the better the reception you'll likely get. Now imagine you want to ask a stranger for the time.
Right.
Starting with, excuse me, do you happen to know what time it is a polite way to initiate the interaction.
Right. The more formal version, as mentioned, is pardon me.
Right.
Pardon me.
Yeah.
Definitely feels more formal, something you might hear in older movies.
Yeah.
Or in very formal settings.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to I'm sorry. This one's all about expressing regret.
That's right. It conveys remorse for something you've done.
Right.
Something that has happened to someone else.
Okay.
Or even just to politely acknowledge a minor inconvenience. The source wisely emphasizes that sincerity in your voice is key to making it effective.
The examples cover a nice range.
Yeah.
If you accidentally bump into someone,
Yeah.
a quick, insincere, oh, I'm so sorry, is the automatic response.
Exactly. And if a friend tells you about a tough situation they're going through, saying, I'm so sorry to hear that, conveys your sympathy.
Right.
We also have the very informal, my bad, for those smaller mistakes.
My bad. Definitely a casual way to own up to a minor blunder amongst friends.
Exactly.
Okay, now we can't forget the bedrock of politeness. Thank you.
Absolutely fundamental.
Yeah.
It expresses gratitude and I'm
Yeah.
sorry. The sincerity in your tone elevates its impact.
Right.
The source rightly points out its universal application
Yeah.
for everything from major favors to the smallest acts of kindness.
Like receiving a thoughtful gift.
Yeah.
A heartfelt, thank you so much, this is perfect, shows genuine appreciation.
It does, adding that extra layer of enthusiasm.
Right.
And if someone simply holds a door open for you, a quick thank you is the expected and appreciated response.
Exactly. You might also hear cheers, used as an informal thank you,
Yeah,
especially in British English.
especially in British English, yeah.
Cheers for thank you. Definitely a good one to know if you're traveling or interacting with people from the UK.
Yeah.
Finally, in this section we have, you're welcome, the standard reply to thank you.
Correct. It's the polite and expected acknowledgement when someone expresses their gratitude.
Right.
The source also makes a great point about the nonverbal aspect.
Okay.
A smile often accompanies, you're welcome, making the interaction feel even more positive.
Right. The examples are straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Someone says, "Thank you for helping me fix my car." And the natural reply is, "You're welcome. Glad I could help."
Exactly. Or if someone says, thanks for the coffee,
Right.
a simple, you're welcome is perfect.
Right. The informal alternative we sometimes use is, "Don't mention it."
Yeah. Don't mention it.
That's another casual way of saying, "It was no trouble at all." So as we transition again, it's clear that these common courtesies, while they might seem like small things,
Yeah.
are essential for creating positive social interactions
Yeah.
and showing respect for others.
Right.
They really do make the world go round a little smoother.
Precisely. Mastering these and being mindful of your tone can significantly enhance your ability to navigate social situations with grace and ease.
Right. All right. Let's move on to those moments where we need to express what we know, or just as importantly, what we don't know.
Yeah.
First up, I don't know. Seems pretty straightforward, but there are nuances, right?
It is direct, but as the source points out,
Right.
you can add a helpful touch by offering to find out the information if it's appropriate. It shows initiative even when you don't have the answer immediately.
Like if someone asks, "What time does the museum close?"
Yeah.
You could say, "I don't know offhand, but let me quickly check the website for you."
Exactly.
That adds value to your, "I don't know."
It does. Or if someone asks, who directed that movie, and you genuinely have no idea, a simple, I don't know, I'm not familiar with it, is perfectly acceptable.
Right. The very informal way to say this is, "Beats me."
Beats me.
Definitely a casual way to say, "I have absolutely no idea."
Yeah.
Now let's look at "I understand." This signals comprehension.
Yes, it indicates that you've grasped what someone has communicated.
Right.
The source rightly mentions that a nod or other affirmative body language
Right.
often accompanies this phrase,
Okay.
reinforcing your understanding.
Right.
It assures the speaker that their message has been received and processed.
Right. The examples fit this perfectly.
Yeah.
If someone gives you a set of instructions,
Yeah.
a clear, "I understand, thank you for explaining," shows you're ready to proceed.
And if a friend is sharing something personal and emotional,
Right.
saying, I understand how you must be feeling, conveys empathy,
Right.
as well as intellectual comprehension.
Okay. The informal equivalent is, "Got it."
Got it. Yeah.
A quick and casual way to say, "I understand."
Right.
Now, what about when we don't understand?
Right.
That's where "I won't understand" comes in.
This phrase clearly communicates a lack of comprehension.
Right.
The crucial part, as the source emphasizes,
Yeah.
is to follow it up with a polite request for clarification.
Right.
This keeps the conversation flowing and prevents misunderstandings.
Absolutely. You want to invite further explanation, not make the other person feel like they've failed to communicate.
Right.
So if someone gives you complex directions saying, "I'm sorry, I don't understand," could you perhaps explain that last turn again? Is a helpful way to seek clarification.
Exactly. Or if you're reading a technical document and a section is unclear,
Right.
you might say, I don't understand this particular term. Could you elaborate on what it means in this context?
Right. The informal way to express complete incomprehension is, "It's all Greek to me."
It's all Greek to me.
A colorful and quite common way to say something is completely baffling.
Yeah.
So these phrases around knowledge and understanding are vital for clear communication
Yeah.
and avoiding those frustrating moments of misinterpretation.
Precisely. Knowing when to admit you don't know. Confirm you do understand.
Right.
Or politely ask for clarification are all key skills for effective interaction.
Yeah. Moving on to those moments when you need a little help or something isn't quite clear.
Okay.
First up, "Can you help me?"
Yeah.
A direct and often necessary request.
Yes, and as the source wisely points out,
Right.
being polite and specific in your request is essential.
Okay.
Clearly outlining what you need assistance with makes it much easier for the other person to understand and respond effectively.
Yeah, the examples are spot on.
Yeah.
If you're struggling with heavy bags, a polite, "Excuse me, can you help me with these for a moment?" is clear and direct.
And if you're having trouble with a software program,
Right.
asking a colleague, can you help me figure out why this isn't working, clearly defines the problem.
Right. The more informal way to ask for assistance is, "Give me a hand."
Give me a hand.
Definitely a more casual way to ask for help with a task,
Yeah.
usually among people you know well.
Right.
Now, what about when you're listening to someone and their meaning isn't quite landing?
That's where "what do you mean" comes in. Exactly. It's a direct way to seek clarification on something someone has said.
Okay.
The source correctly advises using a neutral and inquisitive tone,
Right.
as you want to understand, not challenge or sound confrontational.
Tone is so important here. You're genuinely trying to understand their intended message.
Right.
So if someone says something a bit vague, you might ask, what exactly do you mean by that?
Yeah,
To encourage them to elaborate.
precisely. Or if you're reading a sentence that could have multiple interpretations,
Right.
you might ask, what do you mean in this particular context?
Right. The slightly more direct alternative mentioned is, what are you getting at?
What are you getting at?
That one can feel a little more probing,
Yeah,
maybe even a touch confrontational, depending on how you say it.
right.
So these phrases for seeking help and clarification are incredibly valuable tools
They are.
that empower you to actively participate in conversations and resolve any confusion as it arises.
They show that you're engaged. You're paying attention.
Yeah.
And you're committed to understanding each other.
Okay, let's delve into some really practical phrases for getting basic information.
Okay.
First, the always relevant, what time is it?
Yeah, a very direct and straightforward question.
Yeah.
Exactly as it sounds,
Right.
for finding out the current time.
Right.
The source correctly notes its simple and direct usage.
Like if you're meeting someone and you're not wearing a watch, you might just ask, excuse me, what time is it?
Right.
And the answer is a simple statement of the time.
Exactly. Or if you're waiting for something to start, you might glance around and ask, what time is it now? Just to keep track.
Okay. A slightly more polite way to ask the same thing is, do you have the time?
Do you have the time?
Definitely a bit softer and more considerate.
Yeah.
Next, a crucial phrase for navigating the world of commerce.
Mm-hmm.
How much does it cost?
Absolutely essential.
Yeah.
It directly inquires about the price of an item or a service.
Right.
The source also makes a practical point about often naturally pointing to the item.
Right.
You're asking about in a shop.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense in a store setting.
Yeah.
So you might walk up to a product and ask the shop assistant, how much does this cost? And they'll give you the price.
Exactly. Or if you're considering getting a service done,
Right.
like how much does it cost for a basic car wash?
Okay.
You're gathering essential information before making a decision.
Right. The more informal way to ask about cost, especially after a service,
Yeah.
is what's the damage?
What's the damage?
Definitely a more casual and sometimes humorous way to ask,
Yeah.
often implying a potentially significant cost.
Right.
Okay, now what if you're trying to find your way around?
Yeah.
That's where is the
Yeah.
comes into play.
Precisely. It's the fundamental question for asking about the location of something.
Right.
The source rightly highlights the importance of being as specific as possible about what you're looking for
Okay.
to get the most helpful directions.
Yeah, so if you're in a museum, you'd likely ask, excuse me, where is the Egyptian exhibit?
Yeah.
Being very specific.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you're looking at a map and can't quite orient yourself,
Right.
you might ask someone, where is the main train station on this map?
Right. The slightly more polite way to ask for directions is, could you point me to the
Can point me to that.
definitely more courteous way to solicit directions.
Yeah.
Finally, in this section, we have the polite request. Can I have?
Yes. It's a standard, polite way of requesting something.
Okay.
Whether you're ordering food, asking for an item,
Okay.
or making a small request.
Okay.
The source reminds us that a polite tone is key to making this effective.
So in a cafe, you'd likely say, can I have a latte, please?
Exactly.
Adding that little bit of politeness.
And if you need to borrow something briefly,
Right.
like, can I have your pen for a moment, is a polite way to ask.
Okay, the equally polite alternative mentioned is, could I get? Another very common and interchangeable way to make a polite request.
Right.
So these basic information queries are just so essential for navigating our daily lives
They are.
and getting the information we need.
Absolutely. They are the practical tools that help us interact with our environment
Right.
and the people around us effectively.
Okay, let's move on to those moments when we need to express what we believe or what seems possible. First, I think so.
Okay.
It seems like a pretty basic phrase, but
It conveys a belief that something is likely true,
right.
but with a certain degree of uncertainty. As the source notes, it's often accompanied by a slight pause or hesitation in your voice,
Right.
reflecting that lack of complete certainty.
Yeah, that slight pause definitely signals that you're not 100% sure.
Yeah.
So if someone asks, do you think it will snow tomorrow?
Yeah.
You might reply, I think so. The weather forecast mentioned a chance of snow.
Exactly.
You're basing it on information, but there's still a bit of uncertainty.
Right.
Or if someone asks, is the meeting in the conference room? You might say, I think so, but let me just double check the schedule.
Right.
That need to verify reinforces that partial uncertainty.
Yeah. A more informal way to say, I think so, especially in British English, is, I reckon?
I reckon. Definitely a regional variation to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Now let's look at the opposite. I don't think so.
This expresses a belief that something is likely not true.
Okay.
The source points out that people often follow this up with a brief explanation
Okay.
for their disbelief, which helps to soften the disagreement or doubt.
Okay, so that explanation makes it feel less like a direct contradiction.
Right.
Okay, for example, if someone asks, will the stores be open late tonight?
Yeah.
You might say, I don't think so. It's a public holiday tomorrow.
Right.
You provide a reason for your belief.
You do.
Or if someone says, he'll probably finish the project by Friday,
Huh.
you might reply, I don't think so. He's got a lot of other deadlines this week.
Exactly.
Again, you're providing context for your doubt.
You are a stronger, more skeptical alternative is I doubt it.
I doubt it. That definitely carries a heavier sense of disbelief.
Yeah.
Finally, in this section, we have the open-ended maybe.
Oh. Maybe expresses uncertainty or possibility.
Right.
What's interesting, as the source highlights,
Yeah.
is how much your intonation can change the meaning of maybe.
Okay.
It can range from a slight possibility to a very hesitant, perhaps not.
That's so true.
Mm.
A drawn-out, thoughtful maybe sounds very different from a quick,
Yeah.
almost dismissive maybe.
Yeah.
The examples illustrate this well.
Yeah.
If someone asks, are you going to the party tonight?
Yeah.
A thoughtful, maybe I haven't decided yet, leaves the door open.
Exactly. And if someone suggests a risky plan,
Right.
a simple maybe with a questioning tone can express your hesitation
Right.
without outright rejecting the idea.
Right.
The more formal equivalent of maybe is perhaps.
Perhaps, definitely a more formal way to express uncertainty or possibility.
Right.
So these phrases about belief and possibility are so useful for navigating conversations
They are.
where you don't have all the answers or you're not completely sure about something.
They allow for a nuanced expression of your thoughts and feelings
Right.
without making definitive statements when you're not ready to.
Okay, let's move on to how we react to things and express agreement.
Yeah.
First up, that's great. This seems like a simple one, but are there nuances here?
This phrase clearly conveys positive agreement or approval,
Right.
as the source rightly points out.
Yeah.
An enthusiastic tone is key to making this sound genuine
Right.
and truly convey your positive feelings.
Enthusiasm is definitely contagious.
It is.
If someone shares exciting news like, I got the promotion,
Yeah,
a genuinely happy, that's great, congratulations,
Yeah.
reinforces their joy.
precisely. And if someone suggests a fun outing,
Okay.
a lively, that's great, I'd love to go, shows your positive agreement and eagerness to participate.
Right. The very informal alternative is awesome.
Awesome.
Definitely more casual and highly enthusiastic way to express positive feelings.
Yeah,
Now, what about when we hear something negative or disappointing?
right.
That's where that's too bad comes in.
This phrase expresses sympathy or disappointment about something negative that has happened. A sympathetic tone is crucial here.
Yeah,
To convey your genuine concern?
absolutely. You want to show you empathize with their situation.
Right.
So if someone says, my flight was canceled, a sympathetic, oh, that's too bad, I'm sorry to hear that, acknowledges their frustration.
Exactly. And if someone mentions, the concert we wanted to see is sold out,
Right.
a disappointed, that's too bad, I was really looking forward to it, expresses your shared disappointment.
Right. A similar phrase you might hear is, what a shame.
What a shame.
Definitely another way to express regret over some unfortunate news.
Yeah.
Finally, in this section, we have, it doesn't matter.
This indicates that something is not important or significant.
Okay.
What's interesting is that your tone can completely change how this is perceived.
Okay.
It can convey indifference
Okay.
or conversely reassurance.
Tone really is everything with this one.
Yeah.
If said flatly, it can sound dismissive,
Right.
but if said gently, it can be very reassuring. For example, if someone apologizes for a tiny error,
Yeah.
a gentle, it doesn't matter at all, helps them feel better.
Exactly. And if you're trying to make a decision between two equally good options,
Okay.
saying, it doesn't matter to me, either one is fine,
Right.
conveys that you have no strong preference.
Okay, an informal way to say this is, it's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
Another common way to minimize the importance of something.
Yeah.
So these phrases for reactions and agreements are so important for building emotional connections
They are.
and showing empathy in our conversations.
They help us respond appropriately to the various ups and downs of life
Right.
and connect with others on an emotional level.
Okay, let's move on to those phrases we use when we want to get someone's thoughts or just check in on them. First, what do you think?
Okay.
This is a pretty common phrase, but what are the nuances here?
This is a direct way to solicit someone's opinion or perspective on a topic,
Okay.
as the source rightly emphasizes,
Yeah.
using a questioning tone and being genuinely open to hearing their response, even if it differs from yours,
Right.
is key.
Yeah, absolutely. You're showing that you value their input.
Yeah.
So if you're presenting an idea to a group,
Yeah.
you'd likely ask, so what do you all think about this approach? Genuinely wanting their feedback.
Exactly. Or if you've just explained a situation to a friend,
Right.
you might ask, what you think I should do next?
Okay.
Seeking their advice.
Okay. A slightly more formal way to ask for someone's opinion is, what are your thoughts on?
What are your thoughts on?
Definitely a more formal way to invite someone to share their perspective on a specific subject.
Yeah.
Now let's look at the simple but important. How was your day?
Yes, this is a standard, polite inquiry about someone's day,
Right.
as the source notes.
Yeah.
It generally expects a summary in response,
Right.
not necessarily a detailed minute-by-minute account.
Right. It's a general check-in.
Yeah, it's a way to show you care and are interested in their general well-being.
Right. So when you see a family member at the end of the day asking, how was your day, is a natural way to start a conversation
Yeah.
and see how things went for them.
Exactly. Or if you're talking to a colleague first thing in the morning,
Right.
you might ask, how was your day yesterday? As a way to reconnect.
Okay. A similar phrase you might hear is, did you have a good day?
Did you have a good day?
Essentially asking the same thing, perhaps with a slight leaning towards hoping for a positive response.
Yeah.